There was no method to what I did. So when I came in, my only one ambition was, can I make this a happier place than what it is? Please remain relevant all points of time. Things are changing so fast, you'll be left behind. J.K. Rowling, who made a billion writing a book, Amazon by selling books, and Warren Buffett by reading books. Please read 30 pages a day. Watch science fiction movies. What was science fiction yesterday is reality today. I am very passionate for my country, and I just wonder why these people are not. If anything you can give free to anybody, give good healthcare. Instead of splurging money on all these, sorry to say, statues and all that you're building and all these fanciful places, I would rather you put it on this. It's that one leader who changed the country forever. One leader.
Unfortunate incident of the young bright girl passing away recently in one of the big fours.
We all need to introspect. Have we thrown our ethos out?
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Thinkly Talks. Today we are very lucky to have with us as a guest someone who's had an illustrious career in the world of Big Four consulting, eventually becoming the CEO of KPMG India. He currently is a partner with them and a board member of KPMG Dubai. Welcome to the talk, Mr. Richard Rekhy.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you for having me. I just want one thing. I have now left KPMG, so I was the CEO, and so now I am on my own at the moment and looking at my next. I was also with the Middle East. Just thought I'll.
That's right, as a board member of KPMG.
Yeah,
that's right.
correct. Yeah.
So great, sir. Great to have you. And I mean, I think there's so much to unpack really with you. But you've had a fantastic career. With the Big Four. You've been through Andersen, Ernst & Young, and then finally KPMG. Eventually heading one of them.
Yeah.
So would love you to just kind of walk us through your life journey. How did you make the choices that you did? How much of it was an accident? We'd just love to hear your life story.
So my whole life is an accident. I very honestly, if there was no method to what I did, and I started my career in a mid-sized firm called Ratan S. Mama and Company. That's where I learned the art or the craft of my job. And then I moved to Arthur Andersen, and I could have gone to Andersen long back. They'd offered me a job, but I didn't take it at that time because I was very happy where I was, and I was doing some great things there. And then when I moved to Andersen, I found a completely new world. So my initial grounding there, then came to Andersen, where it was a very different organization. It was from a small, mid-sized firm, medium-sized. You come to Arthur Andersen, which was possibly the best firm. And I still say, despite it, going down in 2002, maybe the best firm ever the world has ever had. And we all learned a lot, and we all benefited a lot from that firm organization. I think there is, in the initial years, while I learned how it's good to be solution-oriented, positive thinking, how to give back to society, how to do things with quality, etc. What you learned at Andersen was how to think big, how to think out of the box, how to go and win those big clients, work across the world, cross-border transactions, etc. So it was a very different world. All our global trainings, all of us went through one set of trainings, exactly to the same school, wherever you may be, whichever country you may represent. So it was very multicultural that way. And then EY was a very short stint, because after Andersen collapsed, we all merged into Ernst & Young. So it was actually the continuation of the same work we were doing, same colleagues. And but somehow I was not able to fit into that culture. So I decided to move on and join KPMG. And I think I've had a really glorious stint in KPMG, good and bad both. But I think the journey has been well worth it. Came in as a normal partner and then grew to various leadership positions very quickly. And then when the opportunity in 2012 came to have India's first elected CEO. So we had an election process. All the partners voted for who they wanted to be CEO. There were 3 candidates. I was lucky to have got voted. And then I ran the firm. It was one of... So when I came in, my only one ambition was, can I make this a happier place than what it is? And I had no other ambition. I had to make it a happier place because one saw so many challenges the firm had, people had, they were stressed out, all those kind of things going on. and also, getting all there. So, so we tried to create an organization which was a lot of engagement with people, with partners, with everybody. And the result showed, every headcount of ours in 3.5 years doubled. Whether it was partner headcount, people headcount, profitability, top line, everything went double in a little over 3 years. And so we actually that, and then in 2017, March 2017 is when I stepped down from the firm, and I took this role in KPMG Dubai, Middle East actually. In While I was in India, I was on the global board of KPMG. Then I went on to the board of KPMG Dubai, Middle East, and was there for 5 years with them till March 23. And so I helped them in their transformation journey from where to where they went as an organization. It was a great experience. I didn't move to Dubai. I operated out of India, but I used to go there every month and work with them on this journey which they had. So in short, this is my journey, and nothing so great. So this thing, but everything happened. Not I never ever dreamt of becoming a CEO for Big Four. I never even thought about it. But when the opportunity came, I just grabbed it and tried to do the best of what I could do.
Right. No, lovely. You talked about culture a lot, and I think, that was very interesting, really a focus area from your side, especially when you took up a leadership role. But if you were to kind of reflect back, I've had friends who were with Andersen,
Correct.
and they also spoke very highly of the firm.
Yeah.
But somehow, when things kind of went south out there, after
Yeah.
the Enron debacle, right? I mean, any thoughts, reflection that you have had, as to when you see really a firm like that going under, what do you think really happened? Was it just an accident or something that could have been avoided, or any perspective, any reflection on that?
So this is a very personal view, and as I reflect back, and I think what happened with Andersen was, first we were Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen was the founder of the firm. He had doors as his logo. Doors, were the logo on the card. And those meant that if you ever came inside these doors, you would get very honest and good advice. Then one day, somebody in Chicago thought, what is this Arthur Andersen? Doesn't make sense. Let's call it Andersen. This doors is old-fashioned. Throw it out. And let's bring the orange ball. The orange ball is youth, energy, everything else. That day, I was discussing with some of my friends, and I said, have we thrown our ethos out? And the ethos for which the firm stood for. And that happened in 2000 when the firm was rebranded, and in 2002 it was gone. And I've never seen in my life that such a quick meltdown of any global organization. Middle of February, the indictment came from Department of Justice. March, the firm didn't exist. March 31st, there was no Andersen anymore. And it was obviously we still have a lot of feelings for the firm. We all worked very hard in that firm, and we are still bonded. We still do our alumni meets, by the way, in India. And so everybody gathers in Mumbai or whatever, and we all meet there. But I think the point was, I think the ethos went out of the firm. And when you take your ethos out, a lot of the value systems move out, and you have new value systems. And also, just to share with you, at that time, all these large multinational corporations came, like Enron, etc. And there was a huge amount of consulting work which also emanated from them. We were the auditors also of Enron, by the way. And that's what actually brought us down. But we wanted the consulting work also, and so that's where all the disconnect came. And but just to share with you and to share with the audience, Andersen had very strict standards. I mean, our quality standards were, I've not seen it anywhere else. No document could ever get out of the firm if it was not properly double, triple, 4 times checked. Different people would go through that document before it went out. You would never, ever find an Andersen document with even a spelling mistake or something which is slightly out of from the format which we had. Everything was the formatting, the spelling, the content. And the other big thing that I learned in Andersen was that we always give to the client something they've never heard of before, ever. Always, and they used to wait for us to come. What is the new thing they're going to tell? What is the new thing these guys are going to tell us today about our own company? So, so we used to work very hard. We worked. We used to do a lot of research and a lot of this thing which went into it. So I think clients valued it and they paid our fees. We were not cheap, and it was very expensive firm to hire. We were well paid. We all got good compensations, and so it was a win-win situation, and it is a true example, case study for anybody. When you talk of premium firm, that was actually a premium firm which worked on delivering quality services, charging quality fees, ensuring that everything that you do is of a high quality standard. I mean, where you stay, where you travel, I mean, everything around it. And this was right across. I've met many, and just let me tell you, when I was with KPMG and a lot of these people, these international clients we had, I've never met them in my life. They would come and I would tell them I used to work in, and oh, we also worked in Andersen. And the guy would say, have we given any work to KPMG? So why don't we give them work? So, that bonding was so good. And the blind trust of one Andersen into another colleague was amazing.
I mean, so much to learn from, right? I mean,
I'll tell you when there was one client. I will not name the client for confidentiality, but there was a lead partner from the US who was leading that client, one of the largest in pharmaceuticals. He told me, I was told you're the lead for EY for this account. Just as a background, I was in Arthur Andersen. I've just come to EY after Atebakal. I said, I'm also the same. One line response. Now I can be assured of quality. Nothing else. So, I mean, that was the trust. The quality was, it was not, there was no compromise on that. Right. So it is sad to see the firm go down.
Actually. Right. I think sometimes it just, the happenings of a perfect storm, I guess, happens, and, you can't do anything to change that.
Yes.
Something that kind of always made me think is, when you are a consultant and you're obviously advising some of these top firms all the time, in those meetings, do you end up sometimes having a very, what should I say, a dispassionate view for yourself and for your life? I mean, does a management consult himself, I mean, the way you've kind of made those choices, do you think you would have made them differently had you not been in this field? And would love to get that insight.
So you're talking of for the client?
No, I'm talking about you yourself. I mean,
yes.
Do you? Yeah.
So if you ask me, if you come into this profession, you have to, in many ways, say, I'm going to give up a lot of things. And this is the honest answer. I mean, I can give you a politically right answer and say, okay, this is it. Because it's a tough life. And I tell people before they come in, are you ready for the ride? If you're not ready for the ride, because what happens, 2-3 things happen, Vivek, in this. There's a burnout.
Right.
There's a big burnout which happens to people. And for me, how I managed it, I love my job. I got into this area by mistake. My father wanted me to work in the corporate sector. He said, you'll get good money, you'll get all the perks, everything else. And he said, what, you're struggling on these low salaries and struggling your way here and working long hours. But I just loved what I was doing. And I never moved away from it. So one, it was a love of the job. Secondly, I learned to de-stress. I learned to de-stress because I brought a lot of humor into my work. So suddenly the tension is very tense, everything, even a serious client meeting is tense, throw some humor into it. Bring the tempers down. And also for me, stress, I always found a stress buster for myself. And I had various stress busters at different points of my life. I used them because you can't carry on, leading that kind of life all the time. And also the one other rule I kept for myself, I would never take work home. Whatever I did, I finished it at office, and I would not bring home to office. These 2 rules I kept, and I strictly followed them. So when I was at office, I was at office. When I was at home, I'm at home. Simple as that. So these 2, I think it's how you discipline your life. You could do a lot of it. And I've been doing it for now 40 years. This is my 40th year after I started my work. And so I think it is how each one of us manage it. But I think we need to manage. Okay, the other thing which is very important, and if the listeners are there, is about your health and well-being. Very, very important. How you look after your health, how do you keep yourself fit, how do you find those opportunities to exercise, to swim, or whatever your passion is there, or walk or run or whatever. So I think health is very, very important. If you're not healthy, there's nothing left out there.
Mm. Now, very refreshing to see somebody like you talk about culture, health, humor, work-life balance, at least
Yes.
balancing it when you are at home. So I
Yes.
think that's probably the recipe, or really what should I say, the secret sauce to, be successful over a long period and run the
Yes.
marathon.
So you know what, Vivek, for me, it was never work-life balance, it was work-life harmony. How can I bring it? So I tell, if you work smartly, you be able to take out time, how you can take it forward and, move it. So that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So I always try to see how, how you unwind, for me, music was a big way to unwind. So when I used to drive my car home, in the evening after office in Bombay. I used to work in Mumbai by the Bombay and Mumbai in those days, from Nariman Point to Bandra, where I used to live. I used to drive my car, I used to send my driver away, I used to drive, have my music, and I was done, feeling good.
Lovely. Segueing into another topic, when you look at the world today, we're really seeing you can call it either a disrupting world order, you can call it a changing world order. I mean, there's so much of uncertainty right now. The geopolitics, I mean, who would have thought that in 2024 we'd be in the middle of two wars?
Yes.
There's this whole immigrant issue that, a lot of European and American countries are facing.
Yeah.
There is this whole disruption that AI and technology, the changing work culture, the new workforce that's coming in. So would love to kind of get your perspective and your thoughts about this. And, what are really the boardroom discussions that you're having with your clients, with this whole changing world order?
See, if you ask me, even before COVID came in, the world order had changed in the sense that technology had already come in, much less, slightly less. Now it's gone to a very extreme, but it was already, people are getting ready for it. People were getting ready for it. And I remember I was addressing a bunch of vice chancellors of the universities, and I was telling them, get online. This was before COVID. I said, if you're not going to go online, you're dead. So you decide what you want to do. And
COVID has accelerated the whole process.
They just accelerated. They were hesitating how we do it, not do it. But I'll just tell you, in today's time, because of artificial intelligence and everything that is coming, and companies using it, clients using it more in their business, I think two things are happening now here. Number one, many people don't understand AI.
Yeah.
They really don't understand AI. They don't know where to apply it. So they're applying it on very basic this thing, for accelerating data, or, doing more data kind of thing. So I think artificial intelligence has to get into the system, like NVIDIA, what they did actually. They went and built a tool, and they, used it for whatever purpose. And, you've seen the success of the company. So I think artificial intelligence is coming in. Also, I would just like to put one point. There's a lot of hype around it also. Built up by various people who are trying to get valuations and saying, I do AI. So you go and talk to anybody who's in technology, say, I'm doing AI, which may not be true. So I think there is going to be job losses, because artificial intelligence will remove some of those jobs. But my view, those job losses can be minimized if we upskill our people, we skill them onto artificial intelligence tools and take them up there. Even people who are on board members or senior management they don't need to become experts in all of this, but at least they should know what you can do with this new technology, machine learning, because I think a time will come when the audit will not be done by the Big Four. With machine learning coming, it may be Google or somebody else some of these IT companies will become auditors. So, we may become, the Big Four may become third car validators or whatever. So things are changing a lot. And I think each one is trying to find their own niche in this world, which is there. So in the clients, the biggest point is, how do I stay ahead of my competition? And how do I stay ahead of a lot of these startups who are coming with completely new business models which are disrupting me? So what we advise clients is that, why don't you collaborate with them? You cannot go there to their route. I mean, they are youngsters, they don't have any barriers. So why don't you collaborate? I think we are moving now to an era of collaboration, of coming together. And so no one organization or one individual can actually solve the world's problems or solve all these problems. So people need to cooperate with each other. So I think that's a big area which we are looking at. Clients also are looking at to see how, because even in AI, when they are using it, they're using it in certain parts of their business. How they can improve their decision making process. Because earlier, we went on gut. We went on, okay, this is what today with artificial intelligence, you've got data now, real time data available on your fingertips. Now you can take decisions based on that, and that could be much more realistic and much more important decisions. Actually, it helps. And also, I just want to introduce one concept here. Everybody talks of Industry 4.0, but we're already moving into Industry 5.0. We're also moving into Society 5.0, where there is no loss of jobs, but where technology and humans are going to talk to each other and learn how to collaborate and live together. So we are entering into an era, what I call an era of prosperity, which is going to come down very soon. This was actually launched in Japan, and we're going to see some of those things actually coming out. So see, I'll tell you, Vivek, what it is now. Now it is who's ahead of the curve, who can understand where the new market is, who can understand where the new products are, who can understand where the new solutions are. And it is not about just scanning. You need to have very deep insight into those markets and say what you want to do. So, so I think that's where we stand today. And the one who's able to understand it and take it forward will be the one who'll succeed.
Right. You talked about Industry 5.0, you talked about society, the next version of it.
Yeah.
Would love you to just kind of double down that, and just, help us understand what are you seeing as the trends which are causing this to happen? Because at some point we see a disruption happening, and you're talking actually about, where everybody can be happy, there's a lot of order. So would love your thoughts on that.
So what this whole thing is doing is that how do humans and machines start talking to each other? And the one space which is still all the time will remain with the human beings is going to be the social thing of emotions. I don't know, one day somebody will even invent that, but at the moment the machines can't emote. They don't have emotions, and that's your space. That's our space, and that's how we are going to survive. And so we need to understand what this Society 5.0, Industry 5.0 is going to do. But if you ask me, what is Industry 5.0? It is about sustainability. It's about governance. It's about social impact. It is going to move to an era of inclusion. The problem in this whole world, we say the rich is getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. This is talking of inclusion, bringing everybody into a more prosperous and not just one section. So how is it going to happen? We don't know at the moment, because this thing was launched in Japan, and they're working to get all the underpinnings to it. But I think environmental sustainability, improved accountability, moving to a more prosperous society will be something that is going to be worked upon. So this is what I think where we are looking at moving in. And earlier we used to talk of mass production was the big area. Now it is mass customization, which is we are moving into an era of mass custom. So you want to buy a car, you say, no, I want my car like this, I want my computer like this, you get it. In fact, Dell was the first to introduce computer the way you wanted it. You just ordered it on the thing. And now we are moving to hyper customization. So, that whole thing is moved out from centralization to decentralization. So this is all what is coming in Industry 5.0, Society 5.0. So zero carbon, more eco-friendly world. And I think also it's coming from the Gen Z, right? They are saying we want an environmental friendly world. So they are pushing companies. In fact, when you are interviewing a Gen Z person, you're wondering who's interviewing who. Because I think they have more questions to ask than what you will ask them. So
tell us about it. When you talk about it, and I'm just trying to, because you made some very interesting points about Industry 5.0 and Society 5.0. There are also a lot of political and geopolitical ramifications to that, right?
Yeah.
We've already seen that after, I think I would say, a few decades where capitalism was kind of running undisputed. There are already thoughts happening about redistribution of wealth. There was this bill that was actually put in ahead by, let's say, the Kamala Harris, campaign about that. There have been some thoughts that happened in India also during the last election cycle.
Yeah.
Do you see, what are your philosophical views on that? Do you see that we will find a midpoint which is somewhere between socialism and capitalism? Because capitalism really is perhaps the most efficient way to kind of look at distribution of resources and everything. But then obviously it has its own negative outcomes sometimes. Socialism, on the other hand, looks the end result seems to be good, but wherever it's been implemented, we've seen all kinds of challenges. So, would love your thoughts on that.
So there will be an hybrid. So even democracy in its current form is not working fully.
That's true.
Capitalism, socialism, both are not working. Capitalism, they say death of capitalization of capitalism, because what we have moved is from capitalism to crony capitalism, where we're just promoting a bunch of, in all the countries, not India only, but all the countries, we are finding very few business leaders who are growing, leave America alone. I think that's possibly the most but America also has its issues of the rich, the large IT companies, and then you have the very poor, or jobless, homeless. In fact, a friend of mine in the Middle East, in Emirati, I just was in Dubai 2-3 days back, and he was telling me, go to America, it looks like a third world country now, because he's coming from Dubai. And he's there, so roads are bad, the infrastructure is sucking, So we are moving into prosperous countries which did not change with time. See, it's a very important point. Anybody who's listening in here, please remain relevant all points of time in your life. Earlier, I used to tell people every 2 years, change yourself. Now I say that as you can change, just change, because things are changing so fast, you'll be left behind. And today, if we look around ourselves, we see a lot of people between their 40 and 50 are losing their jobs. Why? Because they're irrelevant now to the organization. They have no use in that organization. They didn't train themselves up. They didn't upskill themselves, and they're unable to deal with the new environment or the new requirement, what is there. So I think, in my view, there is going to be a middle path, because I'm very worried personally that we can have civil unrest beyond a point of time. Because what will happen, the very poor who are getting no money, getting no food, so what do they indulge in? Robbery, theft, coming to your house, or doing all sorts of, or even riots, and all these. I mean, these are all manifestations of that. If you see today, so many crowd can gather in 5 minutes, so they're jobless, so that's why they can gather. So how long will people, what I find is, even in our corporate world, when you pinch somebody's pocket, that's when they stand up, and that's when they start talking. So this is what is going to happen to society, and I hope we don't reach that level where there is a pushback or there's a revolution, of sorts happening in different parts of the world, different intensity wherever it happens. So redistribution of wealth is not bad, in my view, as long as it doesn't create laziness. And by redistribution, I mean there needs to be more equity. And also, by the way, this new ESG, which is there now, which is environment, social governance, nobody wants to deal with the social part of it. The social part talks of this only, talks about the CEO compensation, the worker compensation, talks about worker conditions, talks about women empowerment, talks of all these kind of things, right? So I think now the question is coming, how do we compensate our people better? How do we distribute well, means not distributing money, but you work, you get compensated better. I think it's about skilling. It's about getting people skilled and then paying them for their labor, what they put in, adequately pay them. And I think with the advent of the gig economy, a lot of these smart guys will jump in there and they will start charging their proper. So it's become like small entrepreneurs, running, giving their time, charging whatever. So I think in India, countries like India will have to get used to it, that a plumber will come and say, I'm going to charge you so much per hour. And, this is what, and you better pay it, you won't get him, So I think that also situation will come. And, the long back, I don't know whether you remember, Mr. Subramaniam, who was advisor to the Prime Minister, brought out a concept of universal basic income. And of course, it never found a place anywhere. It just died a natural death. But I'm sure that is going to come up at some point of time. You're already talking of universal basic health. Now we're talking universal basic income. So these are few concepts which are being spoken about. When do they find their kind of thing? But I think change is going to happen faster than we think. As we are talking today, we may say, oh, it takes a few years, but you never know. Maybe it'll happen even faster. So I think capitalism in its current form is getting people too rich on one side. In the current capitalism, the way it is, I don't think that was ever envisaged when it was put together.
Right.
They thought at least there would be a wider range of people who would get it. And the middle class actually has been pushed down
Yeah.
instead of pushed up. The one way could be where you're pushed up. So now what are countries doing? They're taxing their people.
Yeah.
There are huge taxes today on whoever they can tax, and who gets taxed is the middle class, because they are the salary earners.
Right.
It gets deducted at source and it goes.
Right.
So that's where it is, and they keep getting taxed. So that's another, I think, a big issue which needs to be dealt with in a very honest and open way.
Right. My God, so many takeaways in that,
Sorry.
the last few minutes, and some of them could themselves be like an hour long talk. As you were talking about Subramanian Swamy, I mean, of course, he's come up with some very interesting novel ideas. One is, of course, the UBI, and the other one was, of course, about doing away with the income tax, because
Yes.
really focusing on the corporate tax, or really looking at the indirect tax as really the right way to do it, and very fascinating concept. That it's going to be interesting to see how all of this pans out. But I think the renaissance that you're talking about really needs, I think, a politics 5.0 first happening. I mean, rethinking about what needs to happen, because, like you said, there are obviously issues with democracy itself, especially now with the backdrop of social media, because you have this constant, what should I say, virtue signaling that's happening by the politicians towards their constituents. And I think that in itself is creating this polarization that's happening. How do you see all of this, in that context?
So I think we are going to see a very new, different genre of politics coming into the countries, into various countries. And when I talk of India itself, we can see new politics coming in, new form of politics, new type of politicians emerging. The young leaders now taking over and asserting themselves. The older ones hanging on, still not wanting to give up. So that tussle is going to go on. I just hope it doesn't break the country in the process, but that challenge is on. But I think we are going to see, I don't know what's the right word for it, a more informed political class who will be able to run the country. Because I think there are certain jobs which should be run by professionals, certain ministries, when I say, like finance ministry, the law ministry. These ministries require professionals to run it, not non-professionals, because there is a lot of business acumen, a lot of those kind of things which need, and some ministries can be run by others. But I think we're going to see a lot more professionals hopefully coming into this thing. For example, I met. I'm forgetting his name, but the Tamil Nadu, he was a finance minister, then became IT minister. I met him at Athens. He had come to speak. And he's an amazing knowledge he has, Vivek, on finance, because he worked in the World Bank, he worked in IMF, wherever he worked. I mean, that knowledge he brings to the government at that scale to help the state government do. So I think we need these professionals coming in, and I think that change we're going to see in the political discourse which you're going to have. Social media is going to play a very important role. The way I say, this is my view again, personal view, startup is going to become mainframe economy. Startup is going to be the main economy. Gig workers are going to be the main from where you'll get your supply of people, and then you've got the startup, the gig workers, and then you've got social media, which will kick classic media out. I from 2020 have stopped watching television. Don't watch television, because I said, why get my blood pressure up? And my level of intelligence is not fallen where I would let somebody make a fool out of me. So my entire news is from social media. Somebody asked me, how do you get your news? I said, everything is available there. I can see all the sports games I want. I can watch all the news, because every global leader's on Twitter. That's the first place you get the news. I mean, because they're tweeting themselves, whatever their policy or whatever. So I said, I'm pretty well up to what is happening around the world, and anything which happens. And today, the classic media in its current form is not going to last, and it's dying. And you'll see the ads all coming onto social media. The social media people will become iconic. I hope they don't go the same way classic media went, which is all okay. It's all a cycle. So at the moment, at least, they're quite balanced in their views when they put out their views.
Yeah, the social media allows you to really do narrow casting versus,
Yes.
the mainstream media. If you're tuned into 9 o'clock, you have to put up with whatever nonsense is out there.
Yeah, shouting.
Probably for the lone common denominator, right? There are a lot of questions here, Richard, here from people, from Meera, Arnav, Rajesh, just conflating the thought, and these are, I would imagine, upcoming people in the organizations, So the question would be, what would be the advice that you would like to give leaders? You talked about staying relevant. You talked about staying grounded. So really in this world where there's so much of churn happening, job losses are anticipated, advice to them, and what kind of skills would you really ask them to specifically double down now?
So I think as young leaders, even mid-level leaders, I think the most important thing is to learn technology, because technology has become all pervasive. It's in your field, it's in my field, it's in every field, right? You can't get away from technology. So first, learn all the new technology. Take as many courses as you can, get an understanding of this technology, more so from how you can put it to use in your job, number one. Number two, staying relevant. Relevant, when I'm talking about, you're relevant in the business, your understanding of the business. So get a good understanding of the business which you operate in. You work in a company, do you even understand the business of that company? Oh no, I'm doing this, I don't need to know. No, you need to know. So I think understanding the business of the company, I would say, how do they make an impact? Youngsters, the most important thing, the one thing that I learned in life was, how do I make an impact? The next point is, you should ask yourself, does your net work? We keep talking, we don't have Wi-Fi, so our net is not working today. But does your own network work? I mean, do you have your relationships that you've built over a period of time? How good those relationships are? Because for me, my biggest strength, and I say for a lot of people who go up the ladder, is your network. Your biggest wealth is your network, your relationships that you've built. Relationships are means when you are down and out, they come to help you. And so I would say, for the youngsters who are coming up, doing your job well, working hard, working smart, I would say. Hard is one thing, but how do you work smart, and how innovative and out-of-box thinking are you? And that comes from, I would say, the three people who I talk about: J.K. Rowling, who made $1 billion writing a book,
Yeah.
Amazon by selling books, and Warren Buffett by reading books. So I would say that please read 30 pages a day. I used to read a lot of books when I was younger. Let me confess, I don't read now, but I used to read a lot of books. I read very selectively now because I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of TED Talks and all, from where I get some of my inspiration. But but I think you must be a voracious reader, because only when you need. And I would say one more thing: watch science fiction movies, because what was science fiction yesterday is reality today. So you want to stay ahead of the curve. And there's one industrialist in India, I'm not going to name him. He watches science fiction every second day, the newest movie on science fiction, and you can see where his company is gone. He's ahead of the curve, ahead of everybody. So I think the point is, you should be able to predict the future. You should be able to. It's very easy for me to say it, but let me tell you, if you're not into the business, you'll never be able to. When we had our challenges, I would always say, okay, now how, instead of getting, falling down, say, okay, now what are you going to do? Get remorse and, sack people, cut out this, cut out. I said, no, what is the next opportunity waiting for us? Let's go for it. The next market, the next solution. Can we find a solution to this problem? Consultants will always have something to do, right? Can I find a solution to this problem? And if finding a solution, maybe I develop something very different. So I think the point everybody wants is a positive thinking individual, somebody who's a giver. I mean, giver means you train more leaders under you. And number three, you must always be solution oriented. You got a problem, how do you find a solution? And I think if you get all these skills put into yourself, I think you will be successful in your life and you will definitely go up. But also one more thing which I realized, and I'm going to say it may sound very stupid, but I'm going to say it. People don't use common sense. I mean, we all have common sense. Use it. I mean, we don't need to go further. And I can tell you a lot of problems get solved by common sense. And also communication. Communication skills are very important for anybody, the youngsters who are asking, written and verbal. So it's just not about the content. You got very good content. You can't communicate, useless. Nobody's going to buy it. So how do you communicate that idea? How do you sell it? And I'll tell you one I don't know whether it's going to make me look good or maybe make me look bad. But there's one guy who, when I was at Arthur Andersen, came for a job and he brought a CV very dirtily done, untidily written, because we used to make people write out in an application form. I told him, I only called you for one thing, to tell you in life, never ever do this again. I'm not interviewing you for the job. I said, this CV needs to go in a dustbin. He said, I told him, if you cannot sell yourself, what will you come and work with me? You will be able to do nothing. And he remained in touch. He said, it is the greatest lesson you gave me in my life. It changed me forever. So I think sometimes shock treatment is important and we should be able to take it in its spirit and learn from it. Other big problem with most people, including myself, is the lack of self-awareness. We think we are very good, but I think if we become more self-aware of who we are, I think we can become better professionals. We will be able to learn more things. We should be open to learning. And it's all about lifelong learning today, Vivek. It is cannot say, oh, I became a chartered accountant, MBA, now I've finished. It's all done, dusted. You have to continuously learn. Right. So if some, I don't know, whatever they like.
No, amazing set of nuggets out there and very prescriptive and specific, advice, especially about reading 30 pages a day. I think that's something.
And also, one more thing I will tell them as they go through their life. Can you give 10% more than what you did last time? You do something today, can you do 10% better next time? Don't go for big changes. Go for incremental changes, 10%, 10%. And that is what is going to make you a winner. And do you really push yourself?
Right.
Have you reached your talent?
Right.
And if you're ever going to ask me about my failures, I'll talk about it and then tell you how you can bounce back from there.
No, awesome, sir. I mean, I really love this, the last few minutes when you kind of put it all together. I especially love that line about J.K. Rowling and Warren Buffett and,
Jeff Bezos.
I'm going to steal that one, with your permission.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah. They all made billions. You look at it, writing,
absolutely.
reading, and
a creator, a reader, a distributor, and yes. I think it's really about there's so much of opportunity out there. If you just approach life with a very positive approach, there's so much that one can do. Yeah. Richard, in all of this, I mean, especially with the advent of AI, and now we're talking about the geopolitics, you talked about the Gen Z workforce, all of it is combining. What's really your perspective on the India story? Where do you think we are placed right now? And, is it an opportunity for us to kind of grab? Do you think we are fettering away the opportunity? Would love your take on that.
There could not be a better time for the youngsters who are here to be in India, number one. Maybe at various stages, I've said it. 10 years back also, I said it. But I think today, the India hype has become real. It's become real. And it's happened only because of one reason. The world hates China. Yeah. And because the world hates China, but they still need to do business with China. I think we need to become smart. And, I'm just saying, I'm giving a kind of a suggestion here, is that why can't we not let China outsource their manufacturing to us? The certain part of their manufacturing, India, and that will create huge amount of jobs for India. And the lower end manufacturing, and they give it back to China. China can't afford to produce at that level. The wages have gone up. India can still do it. And I think like outsourcing in IT industry, we should do outsourcing in manufacturing. We should be part of global supply chain. I think there could not be a better time for India. First of all, our macroeconomics are very strong. And we have to thank all the earlier finance ministers who came and built such strong. And I would give a lot of credit to Dr. Manmohan Singh for the kind of policies he put in place. He did not go berserk. He didn't open up capital convertibility. He did. And we cursed him. Let me tell you, I cursed him. And then why is he not making it? And now I understand what he has done. All the restrictions on banks, none of our banks have gone down the way global banks have disappeared, just in minutes. So I think India is so well positioned. Our talent, I worked in global firms. I can tell you on a individual to individual, Indian talent is as good or better than their foreign counterpart. And it's not me saying it, it's the global people who have given me that feedback. Your talent is amazing. So we should no more call ourselves low-cost hub. We should call ourselves the talent hub of the world. Because all the top talent is going to come out of India. And with artificial intelligence you were talking about earlier, I mean, the biggest this thing is going to be AI services.
Yeah.
India's pole position to do it, because we have all the engineers, we have all the mathematicians. We are well positioned to be in doing those AI services. So I think this is the best time for India, the best opportunity for your jobs. I know there are challenges now in getting some of the jobs, but every economy goes through some of these blips. And I think you raised a point earlier about distribution. You see, if we have a better distribution of wealth, consumption will increase, factories will start working, everybody will get more jobs, everybody will be more prosperous. So there is an upside and downside to everything in life, right? So if see today, if somebody gives you a lakh of rupees, Vivek, what will you do with it? You will save it or you'll do something, right? You don't need to buy something now. But just imagine giving that 1 lakh rupees to your maid or somebody, it'll immediately be spent. It will
Right.
drive consumption. So I think it is important that consumption is driven at all levels. So I think you go to any economist, he'll tell you the trickle down effect, how the economy grows if the money goes down to the bottom of the pyramid. And I think that's something very important. And I remember C.K. Prahlad said there's a lot to be done at the bottom of the
Bottom of
pyramid.
the pyramid.
And Dhirubhai Ambani followed it. He told his son Mukesh,
Yeah.
your money will be made from the bottom of the pyramid, not from anywhere else. So you go down to the mass, that's where you make your money.
Right. India is a country of paradoxes. When it comes to the difficult stuff, which is, let's say, for example, IT outsourcing. We've done a fantastic job with it. We are a global leader out there. When it comes to really doing high-end engineering, manufacturing, we now compete, like you said. We are no longer a low-cost destination, right?
No.
We've started very late on this whole semiconductor chips and everything, and I'm sure that in a matter of time, 5-10 years, we are at the right time when it comes to this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the basic stuff about having our infrastructure in place, ensuring that there is, what should I say, basic hygiene when it comes to restaurants, hotels, just having, very, very efficient ports out there. I mean, this is the stuff which every other third world country has kind of solved for. What is really holding us back? And what can we do as a nation? What can the politicians do? Or how do we kind of, get that, kind of all lined up?
So, Vivek, just talking of myself, I am very passionate for my country. Personally, I feel, and I just wonder why these people are not, who are running the country, because their passion lies somewhere else. It is not lying for the country. I remember I met a chief minister, will not name, not that it was a negative meeting, but I basically went and explained to that person that, I've just come from Prague. I visited Prague Castle. I think it attracts more tourists than maybe all of India. And,
Yeah.
so how can a city do that? And she asked, well, what happens? So I told you get clean food, transport, this, and the way everything gets done. So you're talking clean toilets, eateries, you put your things to sell, your retail can go up, your airports, hotels. So the basic hygiene is missing in this country.
Yes.
And basic hygiene comes from, I'll tell you, when you hear John F. Kennedy or you hear Nelson Mandela, they say education is very important. And that's where we lack. If we get our education system right, let's do only one thing. If you have to do only one thing, make sure that everybody's educated at a good level. I was in Dubai, just like I said, 3-4 days back, and there they've put the minister is saying, anybody receives school education in Dubai is a global citizen. What did he mean by that? He means the level of education is so high, these guys can match any school in Dubai. I mean, look at the confidence level. It's not just the British school or the American school or the top-end schools where you pay those crazy fees, but every school in Dubai will make you a global citizen. That means you're taught. So I think we need to ensure that our schools of high value, whether it's municipal schools, government schools, any school, and once we get education right, see, the other thing which we do in education, we're just getting people to get 95%, 99% marks. Nobody's teaching them about the values of life, how to live a clean life, how to be ethical. I mean, your MBA courses, I've been talking about this to all the institutes and saying, why don't you bring integrity as a major subject which you talk? Tell them all the stories of all the guys who have done all the corruption. Make these people honest people. The new managers coming out, can they be honest? If you don't have integrity, you have nothing. You can say, I'm the best technician, I'm best, but you don't have integrity, you're zero. That's it, I can say. So I think integrity, ethics, your values of your having a clean life, that all comes from education. In education, everything can be. And then we need to have a good healthcare system. Everybody should get good. If anything you can give free to anybody, give good healthcare to every individual. Nobody should be denied healthcare with enough money. That's the way I see it. For this, you require a lot of money. Instead of splurging money on all these, sorry to say, statues and all that you're building, and all these fanciful places, I would rather you put it on this. It will help. See, I don't know. Is there a Messiah coming? Is there such a leader who's going to come, who's going to make some of these changes? But if you look at the history of various countries, whether it's Singapore, whether it's Korea, it's that one leader who changed the country forever. One leader. I mean, South Korea was corruption personified. One leader comes in, roots out all corruption. And Korea changed. See where it's gone. Japan, same thing. So I think we need Singapore also. So I think we need that. We need maybe that kind of revolution or whatever leader to come. So I don't know when.
Yeah. Shifting gear a bit, this has been very fascinating. But in one of your talks, you're really talking about finding a higher purpose in life.
Yeah.
And you really talked about, really about having that a larger meaning to your existence. Would love your thoughts on that, and how you have actually applied that philosophy, personally, and what kind of changes that it make you do.
So higher purpose is basically, if I look at it, it's very simply explained. If your job is your current account, your higher purpose is your capital account. Very simply explained. So the question that we all need to ask ourselves: what is the why of our life? What is the why? We all know what we do. Some of us know how we do it. Very few knew why we do it. Why do you work in this company? Why do you go to this school? Why do you go to this college? Why do you, what do we do? Why of the life? Okay. And then if tomorrow you did not exist, you or the company did not exist, will the world miss anything? If the world is not going to miss anything, that means you are absolutely making no impact on the earth. So I think, so those are the questions that you ask yourself. And then the whole higher purpose is built on a bedrock of values.
Right.
You see, in most corporates, the values are on screensavers, they are on in the cafeteria, they are on walls, they are on boards. Take them out from there and bring them to life. Leaders need to bring it to life and lead it. So for me, my higher purpose was firm before self. So for me, everything meant whatever happens to me, but firm is always first. I tried to lead a life, my whole life actually, giving back to society, giving back to leaders, building more leaders. Your greatest satisfaction any leader can have, people keep asking, how many leaders have you built? Ask yourself that question. How many lives have you impacted? You individually. Don't say my company did this or they planted 20,000 trees or 5 lakh trees or whatever. So I think you need to say, okay, what did I as an individual do? What, how did I contribute to nation building? How did I contribute? So I think the higher purpose is actually going beyond. In KPMG, what we did, I was part of that small team in Global, which put together the higher purpose for the firm, and we launched it. In fact, you can read it as a Harvard case study now also, the KPMG higher purpose launch. And so in India, what we did, we got a lot of stories. I said the first story. So once you open yourself up, see, as leaders, we've got to be humble and we've got to be vulnerable. We've got to be as vulnerable as the newest employee you've got out there. And we collected many stories, and then we culminated it with the town halls. Even maybe 10 years back, this was done. Okay, the higher purpose launch in KPMG. People meet me at airports now, after I've left KPMG and everything, and they said, we can never forget the higher purpose. In fact, about 6 months back, I got a WhatsApp message from a lady partner who just resigned from KPMG, was moving on. She said, today is my last day in KPMG. I just want to thank you for all the support you gave me while I was here. I'm no one. I'm out of KPMG, okay? But she said, whenever I think of the higher purpose, I get goosebumps. So sometimes an impact which it leaves on people, they never forget it. and I can tell you, so you can say, okay, theek hai, impact ho gaya, what happened? But I'll tell you, we had a more engaged workforce. Our attrition levels fell. People got more engaged into the firm. So these things happened these are events sometimes in companies' life, it can be game changers. And I would say every company should have a higher purpose. And that purpose should be put out everywhere. And every individual should have a higher purpose. And there can be many whys of your life. It doesn't need to be just one thing. It could be few things if you can have it. But you must follow it, because that should be the prism with which you look at life. How you evaluate. See, today you want to go and serve. For me, it is serving a client, right? So how do I propose for the client? Do I put it through that prism of this? And I can tell you, again, it's a very personal thing, so I'll share it. While leading KPMG, I did not pitch for the two largest audits in India, because I did not think we could work on those audits. And I must have got really bulldozed for doing whatever I did. And a lot of people ask me, how did you give up so many $1 million, and just let it go? But then that's when the higher purpose comes in. That's when you say that what is important to you, earning that money or doing the right thing. So that's the calls we take. And it's for each of us to do it. I'm just giving you my personal kind of thing, what I did. And one of the very senior business, an influencer in India, one of the most senior actually, when he heard this story, was just wanting me to take up one of those audits. And he said, you've given up $9 million fees. So I said, I knew about it. He said, you knew it, and still said no. I said, yes. He said, tell me which are the 6 audits you want me to get for you. I will help you. So, and he did help. He didn't just talk. He wrote down those names, and wherever he could, he helped. But I'm just trying to say that many times, I think we just need to do the right things. It's about the values you should be known for. And also one more thing, which I did not talk about. Those leaders were asking, you need to be fair and you need to be trusted.
Right.
And trust comes from a consistent set of behaviors, and you need to show respect to whoever it is. So I got this very famous saying, which I keep saying every time. Life is a circle. What goes up comes down. Respect people on your way up. They'll respect you on your way down. So then your fall is going to be more smooth. It's not going to be so hard.
Right.
We have to come down. So whoever goes up has to come down. Yeah.
So true. You talked about the higher purpose. You talked about really, also impacting people's life. Just linking it to a question here from Anupama, where she talks about the unfortunate incident of the young bright girl passing away recently in one of the big fours.
Yeah.
Right. And that was really sad. And you think, do you see that as a real thing, the overworking that you see in some of these corporates, especially in consulting, because the burnout is real? And what do you think? Could the management have done differently? I'm not trying to say specifically about that company. I think it was just unfortunate what happened.
Yeah.
Your perspective on that.
So I think it's the most unfortunate, and I want to convey my condolences to the parents, as they're going through losing a young girl, bright girl, because the mother's letter I read, she's in topper in college, topper in school, and must have got this great job with this great company, and then everything goes south. See, the way I look at it, it's very unfortunate. I think we all need to relook at how we make people work. We all need to introspect. There is no point of blame gaming here now. I think the first thing that should have been done, my view, if I was there, was go to the parents' house and apologize and say, I'm sorry. I can't bring your daughter back, but sorry. And see, there has to be empathy. And there needs to be compassion. The new world is not even empathy. It's all compassion. How do you put empathy into action? No point of coming in, Vivek, how are you? And fine, and I've gone away. But if you're saying, okay, Richard, I'm going through this problem. Okay, what am I doing to help you?
Right.
So I think we need to become compassionate leaders. We need to show, many times the one thing which I've realized, at least even when I was not an easy leader, let me tell you. Let me be honest. You ask people who work with me, they'll give you that. But if there was somebody who was in trouble, I was there with them. I was there to support them if they needed time off. I should do these small things. Like one guy is working very hard. I'd seen him working very hard. I would tell my secretary, can you buy him book him in some hotel and buy his ticket for him and his wife and let them go off and tell them this is from my side. And so he had no choice because the ticket is booked, the player, this thing. So, but just to give them that off, that break, because people need breaks. When you work like this, we are human beings, we're not machines, right? You just put on the machine and just keeps working 24/7. So it was very sad. I don't know all the facts, so I really cannot comment on, what was the condition or not. But we need to be softer with our people. We need to be compassionate. We need to understand their situations. We need to give people time off.
Right.
When this London Olympics, when they resurrected themselves after getting 2 medals and they went to 69 after that 20-year journey they had, one of the things that this guy who was leading that initiative did was Thinking Thursday. He used to give one day off to the entire team to just think, unwind. And I think all of us in our lives, we should see how we are finding that me time with ourselves and doing it. I don't know the facts of this girl, poor thing, young. The whole problem is that the younger people get the maximum hit because everybody puts all the work on them. And we've all been through it. We've come through that. I've come through doing photocopying. So we've all, done a lot of those kind of things. So I think it's really, I don't know the facts, I really cannot comment, but I just say we need to be more compassionate leaders. That's all. And a kinder thing where you give people space. If somebody is give them off. How does it make a difference? Life is not going to come to an end anywhere.
That's true.
Yeah, I think we should. That's why employee well-being, I'm again stressing it, is very important.
Yeah.
And if that girl, I don't know whether she complained about health problems or complained that she's not able and they didn't give her off, then it's wrong. But if I don't know the facts, I really can't comment.
No, I think it's a very unfortunate and
very unfortunate.
Corporate India will probably, kind of really relook deep within, when to kind of really prioritize, life first. You talked about sometime in the past saying that, maybe we'll come down to my setbacks and challenges, right? Yes. And I think this would be a good time for you to kind of talk about, some of the difficult times that you faced in your 40-year-long period and how did you bounce back? Because I think ultimately, life is going to be about ups and downs. How did you really bounce back from those?
I'll give you one incident, which is so deep rooted in me, which actually 2 incidents. One, it's not so, I'm not talking the minor, I'll talk about the major one. When I was at Andersen, came from Ratan Pharma and Company, a small mid-sized firm. I didn't understand how the partner procedure works here. So I didn't know. And so obviously, when you don't know how the cultures work there, you lose out. And I did not make it to partner that year or that time because I came mid-year. I didn't never realize the process starts 1 year before. Anyway, so I lost that out and I was very disappointed because I thought it's like Ratan is more, you make it to partner and everything is done. So the normal thing happened, the raving, ranting, abusing the system, everybody. Then I thought this is useless. So I got down to work and I worked so hard. Actually, when you fall, right, you go down into your reservoir of talents which you thought never existed. And I went down to those talents of mine. And that 1 year I worked very, very hard. And I did everything possible and I got offers from other similar accounting firms. I was in Andersen, so other 4, some of them came with offers like 3 times the salary, making you partner and everything else. I said, no, I will not leave Andersen without becoming a partner. And irrespective whether I make it or not, next year I'm going to stay on. Fortunately, I made it. And let me tell you, 1 year later after that, when I made it to partner, I got a promotion which was 4 times. So people who made it to partner 5 years before, I was taken on their equivalent. I became a worldwide partner. So all the work actually played out. Right. And my boss told me, we hope we have reposed the faith back in you that, the firm is fair. And and I couldn't believe my comp when he gave me the letter that year because it was completely unbelievable, what they did. But, the point is, I think you need to go back to your things, self-awareness. Can I take out the best? of myself, because I think that's the time I stretched the envelope. I
Right.
stretched myself to give the best I could. And I came to know so many talents I had, which I didn't think I had.
Right.
They all suddenly got enlightened. And so I think this was my biggest this thing. I had situation in client situations where we have had failures and you bounce back and we've got those clients. And
Right.
so I'll only tell you one thing. If you're in the service industry like I was,
Mm.
your best way to build a client relationship is to do some wrong, because you get an opportunity to correct it, because
Yeah.
it's not about the service, but it's about how you repair it, how you
That's right.
fix it, how do you fix it. And then the relationship becomes very strong, as happened in so many of my clients, and you built the relationships and they have been lifelong then, and client is really appreciated it.
Truly inspiring stories. And I think especially about, kind of diving deep into your reservoir of talent that we didn't know existed. I think that's a great takeaway,
And
from
I'll also give you one more thing. When I was in Ratan Mama and Company, I was sent to set up the Delhi office. No clients, no money, no people.
Mhm.
Blank. Ratan Mama, not a name known in North India.
Mm.
So nobody knew. They said, what is all Mama, Chacha, this, that, and all this. And despite all that, I went in there and built the practice. And I think that's the day I turned from a boy to a man. I became from a normal employee of Ratan, a normal partner, to an entrepreneur, because I won my clients, I hired my people, I did all the groundwork, I did everything, and and yet got some very big. And my biggest feather in the cap, when I won a multinational account against one of the big four, against one of the big five at that time, at the same fees.
Mhm.
So that firm went, they said, we've got a global relationship. Why are you giving it to these people? He's saying their quality is better than you. So the quality that we delivered was what differentiated us. So I think sometimes we don't have to bother about the brand. I think the one other thing I leave with people who are maybe listening, there is a company brand, there is your personal brand. Please learn to build your personal brand, because people will know you by who you are and they will remember you for what it is. So always learn. They were asking, how do I, somebody asked the question, how do I build? One is building your personal brand. You get noticed, you get, found out in the company. Noticed in a crowd, I would say.
No, sir, this was so awesome. I think the hour just flew by, but I think before we let you go, if you could just have a quick one rapid fire round, and I would
Sure.
just throw some questions and would love your instant reaction.
Sure.
So one book that you believe everyone should read.
So there is not one book, the one real book. The one book which I lived my life on, which I swore by, was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That book actually changed me forever by saying that when you want to something, you go with a positive mindset, you will win it. And he gave examples of how it works. The other book which I very recently read was Outlive the Science and Art of Longevity by Dr. Peter Attia. That's a really good book. I will suggest to youngsters to read it, because today we are talking of life, we are talking of how do we get it going. I think, and the Simon Sinek has been a great. I'm a fan of him, as you've seen.
Yes.
Why? So the Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone, and Leaders Eat Last. These are two books I really liked of him. The other one I liked was Ram Charan as an author. I read his book Good to Great with Jim Collins, which he co-authored, and Execution, which was a beautiful book to read. Anybody wants to hear the discipline of getting things done, Execution is a beautiful book which you could read. And of course, there is one book which maybe many people have not read, but which really inspired me, was The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. It's a book of how a person can inspire a whole set of janitors to believe in themselves. And, there's nowhere they can go up, right? And there are some 2-3 small books that, which I read, was Who Moved My Cheese and The Present. How do you remain in the present? I think these are very real life stories which people should read. These are small books. Who Moved My Cheese? Please read it for those who have not. And Present, this is Spencer Johnson. So both these books. There's one other good book which I like, was The 1 Minute Manager. These are all books which changed a lot of my thinking, a lot of my way I used to look at. Some of them I've done by audio, some I've read the book. So, yeah.
Lovely. I think that's a great reading list. I've read some of them, but I think I know now what to kind of double down on. What's your go-to stress buster?
So for me, I love pets. I've got dogs. I've got 4 dogs at home, and they are my greatest stress busters. You know, the kind of love and affection they give you when you're tired. You got badgered at work, they just come and wag their tails and are jumping on you. The other one is exercising, going for long walks. And the third one is listening to music. Actually, in my very early, when I used to get very upset at office, I used to be in Bombay. My office was in Churchgate, very close to that Marine Drive. I used to
Right.
just walk down to Marine Drive and just keep walking and walking and walking. Just take the steam out alone. Just take it out, and so those are my basic stress busters.
Nothing
Swimming,
beats
but
like a
I
good
couldn't
book.
do swimming. But you can't find a pool every time. So I love swimming actually. Yeah.
That's nice. If not Big Four, if not consulting, what would you have been doing?
I would have been an architect or a designer.
Okay.
Because I think I have a great attention to detail and I love colors. I like things in a particular way. I thought maybe I'd have made a good architect, even a designer actually, whatever. So
Okay.
these are the two professions I could have gone to.
Lovely. And if you had to meet any historical figure, or for that matter, mythological figure even, who would that be?
So actually, historical figure, if I have to meet, I would look at Jamshedji Tata, the guy who started the Tata Empire.
Right.
I want to understand what was his DNA. How did he change this country forever? Because he's at the big, I don't know how many of your listeners even know that he's had the biggest impact on India, on the modern India, in the
True.
sense all the rules we see, the 8-hour rule, the bonus, the pregnancy leave for women, the gratuity, provident fund, he started it. There were no such rules in the country. There was nothing. Every single rule that you see, every single labor law, they put in Tata's first when it was not there. The other person who I never met and who's my hero is Steve Jobs. I would have loved to have met him. They met him. And I'm going to say two other names. One is Nelson Mandela, who's had a great this thing on me, but it's more like Mahatma Gandhi, because both of them are universal leaders. And the last one is Marvin Bower, the guy who built McKinsey. When I became a CEO, somebody gifted me a book written by one of his lady partners on him. That was my Bible. That was my go-to book while I was running the firm. I read that book page to page, and I followed a lot of things that he did in his life.
I can understand Steve Jobs completely, given your passion for design that you just shared with us.
Yeah. And quality also, which is
absolutely. A skill that you wish you had at the start of your career?
I was an introvert when I started my career, and I became extrovert over a period of time. And other skill I thought which I didn't have at that time was business development skills. And diplomacy, I think I've not learned it till now.
But it's done well for you. I mean, being a straight talker, I think has worked well for you.
So I only know one thing: think straight, talk straight. So that's what I do, and I just follow it to the T. People don't like me saying it, but it's better to say it on their face, talk behind their back.
Right. And the last question: which has been the best piece of advice that you think you've ever received?
So one of the best pieces of advice is never sell anything that you would not buy. Wow. Never sell anything that you would not buy, and learn to give back to society, and always move on. It's a very simple word. See, many of us get stuck in a situation, in a relationship, in whatever, in some grief. We are stuck there. Move on. Learn to move on. And I think, so if anything I want to leave with somebody, just move. Just move on. Leave. Go on. Life will give you its this thing. Don't get stuck with anybody. Somebody's hurt you, so okay, it doesn't matter. Karma is there. You'll take care. You don't need to bother.
Right. Just let it go.
Yeah, just let it go, and you'll be much happier for yourself. Forget about anybody. Like John F. Kennedy, once I read, he said, forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. So, which is okay. So you don't go and fall again.
Right.
Yeah.
Sir, it has been such a fantastic, 1 hour, 15 minutes. It just flew by. Thank you so much for the time that you spent with us and for all the advice, It was
it's great
amazing.
meeting you, Vivek, and thank you very much for having me on your platform, and all the best to any of your listeners who are still there, and wish them all the best in their careers. Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to take you on the offer of meeting up with you next time you're in Mumbai.
Definitely.
It's really a pleasure to just catch up with you.
Definitely. I will look forward. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Bye. Bye.